or afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Kafili Thomas. He, him pronouns. I am the Director of Program Learning and Impact here at Progressive Multiplier Fund. And excited to do another training with you all for Fundraising Friday. This week's topic is going to be on donor offerings in the digital age. Here is the whole Progressive Multiplier team. I'll be running a solo show today. For those of you who are regulars, you know that Polly normally joins on these to help run them, but Polly is taking some much deserved vacation. So I will be running point today. But yeah, normally at any time, different folks from the team will join. So please feel free to reach out to any of us for any of your needs. Um, and a little bit more about who Progressive Multiplier is and what we do. Our purpose is to help organizations build a progressive movement of by and for everyday people. We do this work through organizing and leveraging funding to create on-ramps for progressive organizations that start, strengthen, and scale individual giving and earned revenue programs. And through both an online community of practice, of which you all are a part of today, and our grant making and support program, we build the progressive sector's revenue generation knowledge and skills so that we can amplify a people-powered movement. A little bit more about our grant making process. We have three major areas of focus organizationally: achieving justice, realizing democracy, and restoring the environment. And what we really want to do is help build the revenue generation capacity of orgs that work in these three focus areas to be able to build up the resources needed to affect widespread change. That work happens through campaigns, organizing, litigation, other civic engagement, as well as the more public-facing mobilization and education work to influence folks. And we believe, as a theory of change, that this is the most effective way for us to build sustainable progressive power. So wanted to, again, shout out our amazing partners at Resilience Initiative who are helping put on Fundraising Friday. And if you haven't had a chance yet, please introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your organization, and role. This session, along with all of previous Fundraising Friday sessions, will be available in the private YouTube channel. The link is there below. I'll provide the links again at the end of our session today, so that you are able to check this out at a later date if you need to. We have other sessions that we have done in the past on a bunch of different topics. So yeah, please feel free to check out the YouTube channel. And a little bit more about what's available through the partnership with Resilience Initiative. So we have the two tracks of Fundraising Friday, the 101 track that is working on fundamentals for fundraising, the 201 track, which is working on current trends, next level topics that have been designed by you all, but also 101 fundraising coaching. Each group is eligible for up to 5 hours of individual coaching with myself, Polly, or another one of our colleagues on our team. There's a list of different projects that we have done with Fundraising Friday members before, including trainings, presentations, doing some campaign planning, thought partnership. There's a pretty open, ability to get the things that you need. So would really encourage you all to take advantage of those resources, reach out to us or to Michelle Mengel at Resilience Initiative if you have any questions or if you want to get signed up. And I will share those links at the end of the presentation. And again, if you'd love to revisit any of the previous Fundraising Friday sessions, if you want to rewatch this one, share it with colleagues or friends, you have access to the YouTube channel, and we will share that link with you. Great. So what we'll be covering today, as far as digital fundraising, Our topics are the digital landscape, so what digital fundraising is, how this has developed over time, and where we are heading, choosing a road. So we're going to talk about what different types of digital fundraising exist out there, what might be right for you and your organization, getting to the money, creating a plan for you to be able to secure some fundraising for your organization, and some structures and support. And then we want to leave some time at the end um, for a little bit of Q&A as always. Um, so yeah, starting with digital landscape, how appears fundraising online? How has this become such a major thing that we're talking about now? And what does it mean in this fundraising era that we're in? Um, so digital fundraising really started in the late 90s, early 2000s, and was primarily limited to what most people know through digital fundraising, email campaigns, so reaching out to folks directly through email. But as the ability and access of the internet to organize and to fundraise increased, so did folks' different strategies on how to use the internet to be able to fundraise. And it is now, according to Match Pro, the preferred way for folks to donate. 63% of donors in the US and Canada will prefer to give online through credit card or debit card information rather than any other form of giving. Um, and another form of digital fundraising that we don't talk about a lot, text fundraising, is incredibly effective. SMS open rates are as high as 98%, and mobile users make up 1/3 of all donation transactions on websites. We'll talk a lot about mobile today because it's an increasing way for folks to engage with the internet, especially in younger generations. But just in general, um, text message fundraising is something that is slowly starting to increase as folks really start to invest in this space. Um, so just getting a sense of, folks' familiarity with digital fundraising. Just wanted to ask, feel free to come off mute. You can write in the chat if you'd like, but it'd be great to hear your voices. Um, how does your organization currently prioritize its online and mobile presence? Is this something that your comms department does? Do you do that in development? Maybe you just have a website, really focus on it at all. But just wanted to get a sense of how folks are grappling with their online and digital presence as it comes to fundraising.
Hi, I can share. I'm Emma from the Union of Concerned Scientists. I will say that our membership team definitely uses a lot of SMS in reaching out to donors and fundraising. We have yet to really incorporate, I manage our mid-level giving program, so we've yet to really incorporate that into the group of donors that I oversee. And I have a little bit of hesitancy to do it because I do sometimes see the responses of people being angry that we're texting them.
For sure. I totally get that. Yeah, it's a very new technology for folks to engage with. And I think that as far as like text messages in particular, I think there's also like a strong generational gap between older generations being maybe less comfortable with folks texting them or even calling them, um, and not being able to like opt out of the conversation, whereas younger generations primarily communicate via text. So it's a very normal thing, um, you know, for folks to sign up for text message updates from their favorite brands or shops that they shop at. So a charity that they donate to or an organization that they care about, there's less, you know, I guess, mental buy-in that needs to happen before um, that can be a thing. But that's definitely an interesting point to bring up, and I would love to dive a little bit deeper on that. And Kay in the chat says they are newbies at CEDO and very interested in your experiences. Kay, can you share a little bit more about maybe where you are in the digital space and what you're hoping to get out of this?
So, hey, am I unmuted? um, so we have just engaged, actually just had some meetings. We're a intercultural organization. We work across the border in Mexico. And so we have just recently engaged a comms team and a social media team. We've been dabbling here and there with very limited success. And so that's why I say we're newbies. Is I'm really welcoming the opportunity to sort of address it from the beginning and working, towards the accomplishments that you all have had.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Kay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll get into a lot of the structure, and also I think a big part of what we'll talk about, and um, would be happy to dive in deeper during the Q&A session, is a little bit around expectations and what realistic expectations for this type of programming and building out this type of work looks like in real time. So yeah, excited to talk a little bit more about that. Michelle says comms leads for social media and email, and the dev team supports. Okay. So this is like a dual team approach, which totally makes sense as well. Okay, great. Um, so let's talk about who is really embracing the technology, which is truly younger donors. Younger donors are digital donors. According to MP Source, millennials make about 25, 26% of the US population, but actually are now the group that donates the most to charity on average. And some facts that are interesting around this, 40% of millennials who donate to organizations are enrolled in monthly giving programs. So they are very, well, we as a millennial, are very attuned to the concept of recurring giving, to monthly giving. That is something that makes sense to us, and can see the benefit of it. 46% have donated to some form of crowdfunding campaign. So whether that is, a Kickstarter for a specific item or a project, or a GoFundMe in case, someone has fallen on hard times somewhere. So charity looks a little bit different for us, but we do engage with it, at a strong clip, because 84% of millennials give to charity, and we donate an average of almost $500 across 3 organizations. And this trend continues for Gen Z donors who are now coming of age and are, a lot more, I guess I would say, politically astute in what matters to them, and are engaging with charities, nonprofits, social justice work at levels, that other generations maybe didn't. And so a huge part of this digital, familiarity is being ahead of the boat, because we are on the precipice of the digital age and fundraising, which means we're probably one of the last industries to really have to deal with the digital reckoning. We've seen it across different industries, across different workforces, and we've still maintained, to the most part, a very traditional way of doing fundraising, primarily because our work is so generationally focused on older people, because older people generally have more wealth, and so tend to be the targets of our work, right? But as that is shifting, and as we are seeing a huge, I saw some numbers talking about like maybe $13 billion of wealth being transferred within the next 10 years from the boomer generation to younger generations through inheritance. You want your organization to be set up and well prepared to catch that windfall when it happens. You don't want to be, the last organization out there who is not invested in the digital platforms, and are struggling to keep up with the new phase of fundraising, and putting yourself behind the ball. right? And then another thing that's a game changer for fundraising for through the digital space is the cost of it. Digital fundraising offers a greater return on investment for organizations like ourselves. Because if you think back to the olden days, right? Maybe some of your orgs still do this. Your end of year giving being mail focused, right? So you have to pay a designer to come up with the card. You have to pay the printer to print the card. You have to pay to ship to send the mailers out. All of that cost is totally different now. A lot of your organizations probably do that work through email now, right? So your one cost might be your MailChimp or whoever does your mass emailing, but there are other ways, and we'll go over that with the different systems of digital fundraising, where you get to cut out all of those middlemen and talk to the donor directly. And what that allows for is some really engaging forms of fundraising that you can do, but it also helps mitigate the cost and then build a deeper affinity and relationship between your organization and your potential donors. And it also helps spread your network beyond maybe your geographic region. A lot of our work tends to be either local, whether you're hyper local working in a specific neighborhood, a city, a state, a region. Um, you know, Oftentimes only really large organizations do national work, even though, all of our issues relatably are interconnected, right? Younger people are also understand the intersectionality of different causes that they want to support as well. So even though someone might live in New York City, they can see, and they're interested in climate change, they can see how the wildfires in California affects the air quality in New York and would be willing to donate to a California organization, right? But through social media, you're able to broadcast beyond your state, your region, to attract different donors who may have an affinity for yourself and your work. Um, so yeah, we don't have to answer this question right now, but something to think about is how traditionally your organization has fundraised digitally and non-digitally, and what the return on investment has been for your organizations, and if there are certain ways that you can improve that, to tweak that, or to have a better structural setup. Great. So let's talk about choosing a road. So what digital platforms are there to give, and what would be right for you and your organization? Um, One thing that I feel like I hear all the time on these calls and other trainings that we do is, sorry, um, stress about where to start and how to start. Some of these trainings can get really advanced as far as the types of things that you can do, um, you know, whether it's segmenting lists, A/B testing, things like that for folks who already have their base system set up. Um, but what a lot of people are doing is really just starting out, right? And some of the information can be super intimidating. So my biggest advice to folks, whether this is brand new for you or you're trying to scale what you've already done, is to really start small. There's so many different forms of digital fundraising. You don't have to do all of them right now. And actually, it would be wrong for you to do all of them right now because you wouldn't be able to devote the time and energy to perfecting your strategy in each one. So, my suggestion would be after we go through this training, to think about who your organization is, who your donors are, how you want to reach them, and pick one or two of them that require the smallest level of building. Right, you just want to have a base and a digital platform, um, and that will have the highest rate of return for that time and resource investment. And once you take it from there, you can grow and scale and develop those programs and add on things um, that make sense. So this is a multi-year project to build things out. Like you don't have to create 7 different digital funding platforms at the same time. So don't let the scale of things intimidate you and stop you from starting. Um, the second piece of advice that I would have is to take your time. Digital platforms give us access to a bunch of new donors, but we really still need to build a base on these platforms to build a reputation for people to be able to find you. So setting goals and being realistic about what growth looks like is super important so you don't get discouraged. We have found at Progressive Multiplier through our IRG experiments with orgs, it really isn't till 18, 24 months where we really see blossoming growth for a lot of fundraising projects in general. The reason for that is if you're just starting out, you're going to spend 6 to 8 months building your systems. Then when you roll everything out, it's your first time doing it. You're going to have to tweak things. You learn more about what your constituency actually wants, how to communicate with them better. So that when you get to do it the second and the third time, that's when you start seeing the actual results and fruits of your labor. So I know someone before was saying that, have had like, kind of muted success in the digital fundraising space. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong yet. It's just that you haven't been able to build and operate at scale. So that's something to think about. The third piece of advice, which wraps around all of this work, I think, is to create authentic engagement. Digital fundraising is a incredibly unique space where, again, you can talk directly to your donors, right? So you have a real chance to craft an organizational story and history that is compelling, that is exciting, and that entices people to come on board, to support your organization, and to build affinity for your work. So think of it as also a chance to do some programming, to do organizing, and to build a base through fundraising. So let's talk about what some different methods of making some money online for your organizations can look like. We're going to start with some of the older forms and then maybe some things that are emerging and that you haven't necessarily thought of or engaged with. The most basic form is just an online donation form, a donation button, a portal, a page on your website to drive people to give. This is incredibly important. I cannot stress enough. Make sure your donation button is large. It is in the same place on all of your pages, and it is in a bright color that it stands out. You wouldn't believe how many organizations just have their donation button hidden under contact us or get involved or some drop down menu on their website. Put the donation button front and center. That is so important. And one thing that you really want to do is make it as easy as possible for folks to donate. So once they click the button, that should go directly to the donate page. Not too much language on there explaining your work. That's already on your website. You want them to click, donate. The more work that they have to do, the more reading that they have to do, the less excited and enticed they are to give. So yes, that is a piece of advice, even about just having a link on your page. And then you have your typical email campaigns. We all know what those are. Targeted email, see a list of contacts. We'll talk a little bit more about segmentation and things that you can do with that later. Another one that's pretty popular is crowdfunding platforms. Like we said before, this is a platform that younger generations are very comfortable giving on and are used to giving on. Things like Kickstarters, GoFundMes, and this is best used for new and emerging work that is happening at your organization. So maybe you want to start a kickoff campaign for some programming, right? And you have some costs. You can do some sort of, essentially a rapid response around that, or to respond to emergent threats. If there's something happening politically, if folks are, potentially moments of high stress, organizational stress, budget shortfalls, things like that, you can make rapid response campaigns on crowdfunding platforms. Um, Peer-to-peer fundraising is something that has become digitized, but is something that folks have done for a long time. Your classic example of this, your bake sales, um, running 5Ks, things of that nature. That's when you get your donor to do something to raise money on behalf of your organization. So it's amplifying your development department's reach by essentially creating new fundraisers on your team. Text campaigns we talked a little bit about before, and we can get a little bit deeper into that. Streaming is a huge new platform that folks are engaging with. Um, Unsure if people are of the streaming online world, but or maybe if you have children, they are. Um, there are people who play video games or play music, etc., um, online through platforms such as Twitch, YouTube. Um, Tiltify is a fundraising platform that connects to the two, but they often do fundraisers on their channels for nonprofits. A organization that I work with, um, trans-led organization out in California, currently makes over $650,000 a year annually just through folks doing streaming fundraisers for them. So gaming activations is now a huge way that you can increase your reach and have people fundraise for you through peer-to-peer. Having an online merch store helps people purchase merchandise from you, raise money off that, but it also expands your reach and your branding. Um, especially if you are an organizing, or even if you're a member of the arts, folks wearing your merch, your hoodie, your gear, advertises for for other people to come see you and come check you out. Virtual events, we're all very familiar with those from our time during, social distancing, during the height of the pandemic. Um, but you can still run them and create online digital spaces that inspire donations, especially if you have a broader reach now, but you are a local organization. Sometimes that's a great way to interact with donors who are not in necessarily your direct area, where they can come to a physical event or a gala or whatever um, event you're hosting. Shopping and employee matching. There's sign-up programs such as Amazon Smile, where once you sign up, if folks shop on Amazon and choose your nonprofit, I think like something like 1% of all the sales end up, they'll donate that to your organization. There's a bunch of other companies who do things like that. Then there's things like Benevity and online employee matches for gifts that are easy ways to multiply or double the gifts that you're receiving from individuals. You just have to make it easier for folks to sign up. A suggestion that I would have for that is that on your online donate form, just adding a question. Do you know if your employer does gift matching or donation matching? Yes, no, I don't know. Um, you know, and then the no's are the only ones that you wouldn't respond to. The yeses, obviously they do, so you can just set that up with them. And then I don't know, you can have a one pager ready where you can share that with them, ask them to go to their HR department who handles payroll, and you could end up getting double the gifts for not that much work. And then finally, social media, raising money through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can set up donation drives on there. You can have people fundraise on your behalf on there, create awareness campaigns, so tying it into programming, all sorts of stuff that you can do through social media to help you support your fundraising efforts. Great. So let's talk about how you create a plan um, to raise money online effectively. And the first thing that I think folks need to do is think about who is your ideal digital donor. And what we mean by that is who are you actually targeting through your online giving? Because there's so many different ways and angles to reach them, right? So depending on demographic factors, behavior patterns, different motivations, certain platforms will respond better than others. You know, uh, if you're talking about maybe older folks, you may want to stick with like an email campaign, or if you're doing social media, put a lot of emphasis on your Facebook because that's where a lot of them are. If you're going younger, then text message will probably work better than email because folks will just see it as spam. That's a generational divide. Or being on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter as your social media focuses instead of Facebook because they use those sites more. Those are the type of things that we're thinking about. So we want to tailor um, how much we spend our time, how we spend our resources to try and attract our ideal digital donor, right? The next thing we want to do is choose a digital payment platform. Um, there are some that are specific to the type of work that you're doing. So like I mentioned before, Tiltify is specifically set up to do streaming donations. So you wouldn't manage all of your giving through that online. It would just be for that one particular form of it. But then you have more agnostic platforms such as PayPal, Stripe to process gifts. One thing that I think is incredibly important is to ensure that your digital payment platform is up to date and looks nice. Um, you don't want folks to click on your donation link after getting all excited about your organization and see a donation page that looks like it was created in 1998, right? Um, People are going to be skeptical or hesitant um, to put their card information in on a site that doesn't look secure, that doesn't look like it's up to date, things of that nature. So you want to go with a reputable platform that folks would click on and feel good, that it looks up to date, that it looks like it has proper security, et cetera, et cetera. After that, what we really want to focus on is making sure that our data systems are structured and sound. Because these campaigns that we're going to be running are not going to be just one-off campaigns. We really want to build these as full-fledged parts of our fundraising arm for years and years. And the only way to do that effectively is to know what we've done in the past, how successful we are, who we talk to, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll need to invest in a quality client relationship management or CRM system that can support those individual gifts, right? Um, Different platforms such as Salesforce, Donor Perfect, Razor's Edge, those are going to be after your first year determining how successful you are because the data that you capture, as long as you do it well in a standardized way that you can report out well, will help you make more informed decisions on your fundraising going forward. Next, we want to think through utilizing our social media. Um, just because our campaign may be focused on specific platforms does not mean that we can't share our work across different platforms through the use of social media and being able to reach an expanded network. And then again, same thing with email. Don't forget to share your email just because it's a digital campaign that you're working maybe on a different platform. You can reach all of your donors and let them know that you're doing something in a different digital space. If you have the ability to, please try and segment your list based on giving history. Attempt some A/B testing if you have the capabilities. For those who don't know, A/B testing would be like we're sending an email. It has all of the same language in it. We're going to put some really great pictures in one batch and send that off. We're going to put a video, we're going to embed a video in the other half and see what people respond to better. And if people really like the pictures better, maybe a 70% of the donations came on picture emails, we'll say, all right, cool, our donor base engages with pictures better. We'll nix the videos and we'll just do pictures in all of our emails going forward. So you have more data to be able to make those types of decisions around how you structure your work. Great. Peer-to-peer fundraising can also be incredibly useful in all different types of campaigns because folks can share the information and share that you're running these campaigns. So I highly suggest on all your emails, on all your correspondence with folks, have a share button that is easily available, or prompt people, PS, share this with family and friends, let them know that we're doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, you want to use your data that you can get from the web using tools like Google Analytics, other tracking tools to support your program. And that will help you be able to tweak things to be able to get the maximum reach and spread of your program. Oftentimes, whether it's through social media networks or through search engine optimization, you have to tweak certain things so that the algorithm will pick up your work and be able to share that further. So being able to help support that through different tweaks and looking at the data will be helpful to understand where your donations are coming from, where you've been super effective, where maybe you haven't been as effective as you were hoping, and where you can test different things to try and raise up that efficiency level. Wanted to pause here real quick and see if we had any questions around any of those two sections before we hop in to structures and support. Great, that's a great question, Kay. A/B testing means we're gonna split up basically a group and we're gonna do an experiment to figure out what that group responds better to, right? So that would be maybe you're unsure what digital platform you should use, right? Maybe you think you're stuck between text messaging or email, right? You would send half of your donor base an email and half of your donor base a text message. And then you would look at the responses you get from them. Was it positive? How positive was it? How many people donated on a percentage basis, right? And then now we have some data that we could then inform ourselves of like what our donor base responds to best. So then if it's 70-30, if the text messages, like a lot of people were opening them, the open rate was great and people were donating, but the emails didn't really work so well, then maybe your donor base responds better to text messages, right? So then going forward, all right, we're going to focus more on the text. Doesn't mean don't send any emails, but like maybe we change the ratio of like what we do. A/B testing is just a way of like getting better data on how any group responds to different interactions that you have with them. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any follow-ups. Okay, great. Great. So let's talk about structure and support. What do we need to actually be successful in digital fundraising? The first thing we want to do is set clear goals, right? And we have to define what success is for us. Oftentimes, we're fundraisers. What people are asking us about is how much money was raised, right? But that doesn't mean that the work that we did was the way that we wanted to do it, right? So say it's our first year, we're running a digital fundraising campaign on social media, and we have a goal of raising $20,000 on socials, right? I'm going to give you two scenarios, right? one scenario, a couple millionaires see our post, each donate $10,000. We hit our $20,000 goal. That's everybody who donated. That's how we hit our 20. The second, um, you know, 1,000 people donated $20, right, to get to $20,000. The option B, you can argue, is way more of a success because it's way more sustainable. It means our message reached more people agreed to donate to our organization, and we built a stronger base, right? For instance, if one of those people in option A decide next year they don't want to give, your giving is now gone down by half, right? So while we're incredibly grateful for every large gift, every major donor that we have organizationally, it is much more high risk, high reward. If one person from the option B situation dropped, then now we're down to $19,980, right? There's less risk inherently in that. But it also tells us that our message resonated with a lot more people, right? So it may not always be just the dollars raised that is the important factor. It may be how many donors did we get through this program? Again, because we're talking about increasing our reach. So think deeply about different ways and different metrics that you can measure success outside of just dollars raised, that will help us ground our campaign and figure out if we're really doing the work that we want to do, and how sustainable this is going forward and how successful we've been in the past. Second piece of advice, segmenting your audience. I touched on this a little bit before, but for folks who don't know, segmenting your audience would be like, say we're running an email campaign. You have people who give as little as $5. You have people who give as much as $10,000, whatever. And everybody gets the same email. And the direct ask in the email was, please support us because a $50 donation can feed 100 people, right? So if someone gives us $5 and we're asking for $50, they're going to be like, oh, I can't give. I don't have $50. So my $5 isn't that meaningful. So they're not going to give, right? The people who give $10,000 will probably still give the 10. But for the people who give 75, 100, 125, maybe they'll just give 50 this time because that's what we asked for, right? That's just how our brains are wired. When we're oftentimes, for people, when we let them know what we need, folks will give you what you need, nothing more, nothing less, because that's what you asked for, right? So we have to make sure our asks go to the right people. So we would want an ask of a smaller amount to go to our grassroots small dollar donors. Give $10, give 15. Can you do that? Our mid-tier, our mid-level donors, we would want something that's more responsive. They might get the $50, $75 ask, right? And then your major donors, there's even variation within there because maybe anyone from $1,000 up counts as a major donor. Some people give 1,000, some might give 5, some might give 10, right? So you don't want to shortchange yourself organizationally. So that's why it's really important to have this data on hand so you know who to ask what for. And that'll be the best way for you to maximize your fundraising. And again, we're in the digital age. Invest in your website. I can't tell you how many calls I have with groups and orgs where it'll be our intro call. And they're like, "Oh, do you know about us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just checked out your website, read what was on there." And then I'll get a sheepish grin back, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a little bit outdated. I probably gotta like inform you of like what we're doing, right?" But that's how people find out about you in the digital age. The first thing I'm gonna do if a friend tells me, "Hey, I've been volunteering with this org," or donate to this org I'm raising money for, I'm going to go to their website and I'm going to check it out, right? And chances are I'm going to check it out on my phone. So make sure your information is up to date. Make sure your programming is up to date. Don't have statistics of your work from 2016 on the website still. update your stuff, please, 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 and make sure that it's mobile friendly. More and more people, again, are sending these links through text messages, through iMessage, even opening their email on their phones. So if I have to twist and rotate my phone 10 times just to find your donate button because your page isn't formatted for mobile use, I'm going to get frustrated. I'm not going to give money. You want to make this process as easy as possible again. And again, reiterating secure online donations, please choose a reputable and clean looking processor. You want this to look as up to date and trustworthy as possible. The older it looks, the more you leave yourself room for people to think, this website looks like really poorly maintained. Are they going to take care of my data properly? I don't feel comfortable putting my card info on the site. You want to make sure you eliminate all of that. Great. Um, Scheduling your socials, something that folks talk to me about a lot, is the post schedule with social media and feeling like they can't keep up with it. You know, we have a billion things to do. All of us can't sit, tweeting or on Instagram all day. But there are services like programs like Hootsuite is one where you can schedule your social media posts ahead of time. Right now, I'm working on a major donor campaign with a partner organization. And what we're doing is we're setting up all their emails ahead of time with the segmented list, all the social media posts ahead of time. We're going to review all of our content next week. And upload everything to start going out in October. And I don't have to touch anything after that. All the emails are going to the right people. All the social media posts are prepped and ready to go. The visuals are in there, right? So all the prep work is done. And now all I have to do is analyze the data as it comes in. I'm not building while I'm flying. The plane is built, we're in the air. If I need to tweak, I can tweak while we're in the air, but I'm not overloading myself with work, right? So please take advantage of the technology that exists to help make this a lot easier for yourself. My next piece of advice is playing your role. Development teams are notoriously understaffed and undermanned. Um, as a former development team person myself, I empathize and feel that pain 100%. And so we oftentimes wear many hats. But I want us to think deeply about the hats that are being worn when we do this type of work so we can have the right people and enough people on our team to help support this work, right? So things that this work actually is, but we don't say it like that. Digital marketing specialist. How do you brand yourself online? How do we look at ourselves? What is our message and our story online? And how do we share that? Content creator. What are our stories? What emotion do we want people to feel when they see our name or when they click on our stuff? What do we want to drive them to do? Hopefully to donate. And how do we create content that's compelling and that entices people to do that, right? Social media manager. Again, where are we posting? How often are we posting? Who are we talking to? Are we running ads? All of these things are decisions that, would normally be a whole job. Data analyst, money's coming in. Are we on track? How many donors do we have? What's our average gift per donor size wise? What's our open rate on our emails, on our text messages? What's our click-through rate? All things that can help us make more informed decisions about how successful we are. And the last part, customer support, customer service, right? You're running individual giving campaigns. Folks are going to ask for tax donation letters. They're going to ask if you're doing a recurring giving campaign, like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to do an individual gift, or, oh, how do I change my credit card information, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be able to hold all these roles in the teams that you're building to be able to do this work for it to be successful. And updating your community is so important. Oftentimes, orgs will launch something. We're going to try and raise $50,000, and it'll have like a little bar across it. And you'll see an initial push, and then it like kind of peters out, and then stall out maybe 50, 60% of the way. The reason that is is because you're not letting people know how it's going. People are busy too, so you should update them. Hey, we're 25% to our goal. Hey, we're 50%. We're at 75%. We only have a week left. Can you consider giving? Things like that that will spur on more gifts, create more spread to other folks' community, and have more impact. Oh, great. Wanted to leave a lot of time for us to dive into it. I know it's a lot of information, and it can be a little bit case by case specific. So yeah, just wanted to open it up and see if folks had any additional questions. This can be overarching and how it pertains to your organization in general. Yeah.
I have a question. We have at our organization done quite a bit of building of our social media presence. We've gained about 4,000 followers, I want to say, in the last few months. But we've noticed difficulty or challenges in converting those social media followers into donors. And I just wonder if anyone or if you have any tips or tricks on the specific messaging. And I know you said segmented messaging and things like that for donors, but is there any like specific thing that you can think of for Instagram specifically that would be like more impactful?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. A lot of orgs struggle with this. Like your presence just lives on these platforms, but it doesn't necessarily enter the organization, right? So things that you can do, think deeply about creating a fundraising funnel from socials, right? So what that would look like is creating a welcome series of things of people that ways that people can interact with the organization through socials, um, and being able to get them on that fundraising journey. So like part of that may be I know orgs who when they get new followers, because there's not that many, it's pretty noticeable at the end of the week, every Friday, just shoot them a DM. Hey, thanks for following. What made you interested in our work? Right? Just building some sort of affinity, a quick message like that. You can check out more on our website, et cetera, et cetera. Or sending them like a sign up form for their email. So then if you have a welcome series of emails that folks get when they sign up, they'll start getting those as well. That'll drive them towards giving. Um, Calls to action on socials are great ways of like bringing people from just following you into real life. So if you have any programming going on, inviting folks to sign up to RSVP, if you're on IG through Instagram stories, things like that, sharing links. Um, it's Instagram's a little bit different because it's a visual platform and it's kind of hard to stand out a little bit on there. So you have to do a little bit more um one-on-one engagement. But it can be like really useful to reach out to folks directly through messages, I think on there. Does anyone else have any other suggestions on how they would hold that? If not, we can oh, Renee answered. Uh Had a lot of success with matching campaigns advertised via social media. Renee, can you share a little bit more about that? And to your point, Lindsay, just really quick, yeah, we'll be sharing the slides and also the recording, so you can come back to this. But Renee, I would love to hear about the success you've been having.
For sure. Hi everyone. Definitely around calendar year end. And for a spring campaign, we will often go with a matching campaign, and usually around that, we work in in reproductive rights. So we will often do that alongside a major news moment, while also sharing a lot of stories just related to the work that we do on our Instagram as well.
That's great. I think that that's a huge part of it too. Like we talked about before, this is a chance to really speak directly to donors. Oftentimes, major news moments, things that are org shifting, or even just meeting the moment of your community, allies. This is a great way for you to get your voice out there and to like build affinity as well. So think of your storytelling and your communications on social media also as a form of fundraising too, so that people are primed and know the work that you're doing when you're ready to make those direct asks as well. Okay. Any other questions,
I have
comments, thoughts?
I have
Yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I'm Ami from Rock United, and thinking about what Renee said, and thank you for that, Renee, and everybody. I think I think we're missing a step somewhere, because we do have a large contact list that we use for email blasts, which all have a donate like a donate direction. And then we are incredibly active across social media, but the social media is geared towards advocacy and organizing. And the email is often updates about advocacy and organizing, although there is a donate option in those email organizing and advocacy news blasts. But I just can't figure out how we take the step of tying the social media to the actual giving. I just do we've thought about, should we pay for Tiltify and do more on TikTok and have direct donations through social media. So when Renee was talking, I was thinking, so is the Instagram, is that helping to drive people to the website, or is that actually direct contributions coming through social media? Like I think we're missing a step that we're trying to figure out, and it's clearly a it's hindering our progress, I think. So if we could get to that, I don't know if that was clear. Am I making sense?
Yeah, 100%. Renee, would you like to respond before I do?
Yeah, well, using Meta as a fundraising platform is always a little bit difficult because it's just difficult to track gifts coming through there. And for the most part, we will use it as a third-party fundraising platform, if anything, when it comes to directly processing gifts through social media. But we do use promotions for, again, a matching campaign as a way to drive traffic to the website specifically. Even if we're doing it through paid promotion, generally in that case, you click on the post and be taken directly to the donate page. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, that does. So it's not, there's not like a silver bullet or a quick fix. Like it really does have to be strategic connection between what's going on online and what the campaign is like. I appreciate that, Renee. Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, of course, no problem. Happy to help.
Yeah, for sure. There are like different ways to fundraise directly through Facebook and Instagram now have that capability online for people to do direct fundraisers that can be sent to you. But like Renee said, I don't think the data that you get from it is always the best. But if you can drive people to the website and your website is set up to get people to donate easily, that's the easiest way that I would think to be able to get everything that you need. If you can have people do that all on your platform internally, it makes it the best for you because your data is going to be standardized and there's less hoops to jump through. So that's why it's really important to get your internal fundraising systems as clean as possible on both sides, internally and externally, to make that process easy.
Thank you.
Kay asks, I'm new to our development team and I'm wondering why our Facebook donors are anonymous. Can you say a little bit more about that, Kay?
So I just came across this yesterday, as a matter of fact. And we're trying to analyze our data and do some data hygiene in our donor lists. And I was told that there was no way to track or actually express gratitude to our Facebook donors because they were anonymous. Now, maybe the person that I was speaking to didn't have the correct information or didn't have the full story, but this is what I was told, and I was wondering if anyone else encounters the same problem or understands why I might be encountering this. If nobody does, then I'm just going to look internally for my answer.
Yeah, I don't think that I've heard that before. I know a lot of groups that do fundraise on Facebook. I think it may be an option either on the donor's end or on your end around that type of data collection. Oh, Renee, you have experienced the same thing. I wonder if it might be sometimes what happens, Kay, is that if you are fundraising through a third party, they aggregate the gifts and then send them to you, right? So like say someone's doing you have a Facebook fundraiser and you have 100 donors that equals up to $20,000, they'll aggregate the $20,000 and then give the gift through Facebook. Um, so that might be what the disconnect is there.
Okay, well, thank you. Good to know.
Right. Anyone else?
Hey, I guess I've run into something maybe a little bit similar, and I'm wondering if you've got any recommendations for it, which is platforms. Like I know I've run into this with Square and maybe others, platforms that are really designed for like vendors, right? And so they're like selling to a customer, so they don't need as much information about the person making the transaction as we do from our donors for like, especially when I was at an organization that had sort of like higher level reporting on like accounting and like stuff for the auditor. And so we would run into these problems of like using Square because it's faster, but then not actually having all the information we need about the donor. And I guess I'm just curious if that's something you've seen with other kind of trade-offs when you're making these decisions about using different tools other than just like, like my inclination is always just to use like our in-house like our payment processor, our databases way of taking contributions. But I know maybe in some cases there's benefit to using a platform that donors are more familiar with in other contexts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely give and take, and sometimes we are in the space of using like square pegs for round holes, in the sense of we're not getting all the tool was designed to process transactions, but not necessarily to be a proper fundraising tool and having the data that we want attached to the transaction, right? Because what's most important for them is just that the money transfers. So yeah, it's kind of important to do research on what some good gift processing platforms are. I know one that is relative ease of use for folks because they have familiarity with it and may even be on the platform. PayPal has a pretty robust giving platform, and if folks have PayPal accounts and stuff, like they already have their cards linked up on there. It's secure, it's safe, and they trust it. But like there is a donation part of PayPal that you can get a lot more of the data and things that you need. But yeah, I would suggest probably doing some research on like what your needs are. And then also part of that conversation too, is what your CRM is, because sometimes they have direct like live info feeding, like live info dumping into your CRM. So you don't have to do the upload and put people's information in, but sometimes they do. So it really is a case by case basis. But you can also ask wherever you house your data, if there are payment processors that work really well with it. Ask your account manager. They should be able to give you some suggestions around that. Great. I'm going to share again in the chat the links that we were talking about. So this is the Fundraising Friday link. It will take you to all of the previous sessions. If you need to revisit this one, if you want to revisit other sessions that we've done in the past, please feel free to check that out. This link here is the form to sign up for one-on-one coaching with myself, or Polly or Valeria or any of the awesome fundraisers on our team. We can do a deep dive into any of these questions that we've had today around your online giving platforms, how maybe to tighten them up, get them to speak to each other better. We'd be very happy to help. So please, please, please take advantage of that. You can reach out to myself directly. I'll put my email in the chat as well if you have any follow-up questions, or reach out to you can reach out to Polly or Michelle Megla as well. Wanted to thank you all for joining today. Our next session is going to be October 6th, and we're going to be going over from base to supporter. So what that's talking about, and may be interesting for a lot of the folks on the call who are talking about how do we move folks from just following us to donating to us. That's what this is about. So anybody who follows on social media, signed up for an email list, picked up a flyer at an event, how do we move them from just knowing about our organization all the way to supporting our organization financially with their time or with their effort? So hope to see a lot of you all there. And I hope you all have a great, fabulous weekend and Friday, and see you on the 6th. Thank you so much.